Well, we're joined by Creighton head coach Greg McDermott. Coach, you had some news over the weekend where a couple of your players, Damian Jefferson and Denzel Mahoney, came back. Why don't you tell us about their return, what it means to you?
Well, it goes without saying, it means a lot to have them back. You know, their experience and the things that they were able to do for us last year was a big reason that we were able to be successful. And, you know, it's unfortunate that they weren't really able to get a great feel, for the process because of the pandemic. They're really, obviously there were no workouts this year. And, NBA teams had a lot more things on their plate than worrying about the draft. So in a normal year, I think they would have had an opportunity to maybe receive more feedback. But I think they've had a good summer of training. I think they're in a better spot for their game. And to return two seniors as valuable as Denzel and Damian is obviously a huge boost for us.
All right, we'll go to questions. We'll start with John Niatala.
Let me unmute myself. Greg, I actually kind of wanted to ask you about recruiting. It's kind of unfamiliar territory for pretty much everybody in your profession. How have you guys tried to sell yourself, your culture? I know that's a big thing that recruits talk about a lot with Creighton. How have you tried to sell that despite not seeing these guys in person?
Well, it's certainly been unprecedented times. And, fortunately, we were able to get a heads up. I think April 6th was our last day on campus. So we have not been in our office since then. But we had a few days heads up where we were able to put together some really quality video, so we at least can have a virtual tour that I think captures not only our facilities, but our campus and the CHI Center. So at least we had that in place. It's certainly rare times. Rati and Alex, both have committed to us. I've never met either one of them in person. They've never set foot in Omaha. So that's a little bit certainly strange. But early in that process in March, we talked to them about, prepare for the worst in case you don't have an opportunity to visit, and we'll hope for the best. And now we're talking with the 2021 class in much the same way. Hopefully things open up and we're able to get some guys on campus so we can get out and do some home visits and school visits. But I also think you're being foolish if you don't prepare for the possibility of that not being a reality. So, lots of Zoom calls. I didn't know what Zoom was in the middle of March, and now I'm sort of a pro at it. So it's, you do the best with what you have, and my staff has done a really good job of organizing some meetings and making sure that we're at least virtually getting in front of the people that we need to get in front of.
All right, we'll continue with Andy Kendi.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. Rio, I'm sure you get asked this all the time. We get asked this all the time. How confident are you that you'll have a season, and what will that season look like?
Well, I think, Andy, obviously I don't have the answer to that question, and nobody does. I think with basketball, certainly time is on our side. You think about, where we were 3 or 4 months ago on the East Coast and how things were really in a bad place there with the virus and where things are today there. Now, you flip that page, and obviously in the South and on the West Coast in March and April, things weren't bad. And now they're dealing with more issues in that part of the country. So, can we get our arms around it? I hope so. I know that, because time is on our side, we have an opportunity to really plan for several possible scenarios. And I think they're throwing a lot at the wall here in the event that we can't start the season on time. The men's basketball tournament is really, really important to the NCAA, and to go without that 2 years would be difficult for a lot of people. So I'm hopeful that, we're able to play some sort of season. I think, right now it's all systems go, and, we'll prepare to start on November 10th as planned. And if adjustments are made, then, we will make our changes accordingly.
We'll go to Adam Kruger next.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this morning. As far as any injury updates, as far as Jacob or Marcus, any update you're able to share right now?
Yeah, they're both doing great. Marcus, Marcus came back in April, really right after, probably a month post-op, when he could start doing some things from a rehab standpoint that involved weight bearing. He was here through late June, early July, and then went home for a few weeks, and then has come back here and just went home this past weekend. But I think he's right on schedule, probably ahead of schedule. He says that his knee, feels better than it did before the injury, because he did have some instances, not only in college but back to his high school days, with that knee popping once in a while. So obviously the meniscus was the problem. It's fixed, and he feels great. Jacob has been doing individual workouts with Coach Lusk. Jacob, Antoine, and Sharif were the three guys that went through the quarantine process on campus, so that they were able to get access to our facility. The rest of the guys felt like they were in a good situation where they were, so they just stayed home and continued their workouts there. But so Coach Lusk has been working out Jacob, and has been pleasantly surprised with his movement. Both laterally and running in a straight line, and then his quickness getting off the floor. So I had dinner with Jacob the other night, and he feels really good about it. I think he's in a better place than he was, pre-injury last October. I think he was laboring times in practice with the knee, and I think it's in a better place right now. So we'll hope for good things for him. He certainly deserves it.
Next to do John Bishop.
Mac, when you had a chance to talk to Denzel before he made his decision, last year he was such a big, important guy off the bench for us. Did you talk to him about what his role is this year, how it changes from last year?
Yeah, I went to Vegas a couple of weeks ago. Denzel's been training there, and met with him and his brother, and then followed that up last week. Coach Huss and I went to Chicago and met with Damian and his parents, just so they understood exactly where they stand and how important they are to our program. You lose the guy who took the most shots on the team. You lose your leading scorer. So that presents opportunities for other people. And we all know that Denzel played out of position last year, due to several factors. We were rolling when he became eligible in December, and you don't want to, upset the apple cart, so to speak, in those situations. And then with some of the injury problems we had, we went with that small lineup, and Denzel has the versatility to guard multiple positions. So it made us a very difficult team to prepare for with him on the floor. Now he's got to make the move to the wing. I certainly see him sliding into Tyshawn's spot. But he and DJ are both going to have more opportunities to score, more opportunities to play with the ball in their hands. And I think those are things that they wanted to be able to do. And I think at the end of the day, though, especially if you listen to DJ's comments when he talked with you guys the other day, these guys want to win. And that's the end of the day, that they certainly want to continue to move forward from an individual standpoint, position themselves the best they possibly can for a career in basketball after college. But at the end of the day, they're committed to winning, and both of them bring a lot of versatility on both ends of the floor to our team. That's going to be really valuable for us. And I think both of them are going to have to absorb what Tyshawn did for us defensively. Certainly Marcus will do some of that as well, but a lot of that's going to fall on Denzel and Damian's shoulders.
Rex Smith, we'll have you go next.
Mac, you mentioned Denzel and Damian being able to play a little bit closer to their position size. You'll kind of have the flexibility to do that roster-wise this year, maybe go small or big. How do you, now that you know they're coming back, how do you view what the rotation might look like? I know it's impossible to know right now, months out, but.
What it does is it really gives us depth. Sharif did some good things off the bench for us last year, and I think he's had a really good summer and worked really hard to improve, areas of his game that needed some improvement, his shooting in particular. Antoine Jones is someone we've been really excited about as he sat out last year, and I think he, again, like Damian and Denzel, has the versatility to really play, that 2 through 4 spot. And if you wanted to go small and throw 2 or 3 of those guys out there together, that'd be very difficult to guard as well. But where we didn't have much depth at the 5 spot last year. Hopefully a healthy Jacob Epperson to go with Christian and Ryan, and now Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think, can really help us as well. So, we have some depth. The 2 freshmen, foreign guys, Rati and Modestus, we're still working on getting them to the country. So hopefully that's happening soon. And, obviously it hurts guys like that not to be here for the summer. That I think that time is really invaluable for freshmen in general, but especially freshmen that are coming from overseas, just to get adapted and get a feel for, how it's different here in terms of our training and the way that we play. So, we're going to have those 2 guys in particular on a pretty fast track and trying to catch up as quickly as we possibly can.
Next, from Basketball Times, we'll do John Akers.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned your international players, and are there particular challenges logistically in just getting them to the United States? And do you think there might be some international players this year across the country who don't make it over here?
Well, I hope individual schools will have the flexibility to understand the unique challenges of the times that we're living in. Modestus and Rati both finally were able to get appointments. I think Modestus yesterday and Rati tomorrow with their embassies to get their student visa. So, those embassies were closed for a long time and there were no opportunities to do that. So, ideally we would have liked to have them here by now so that they have to begin a 2-week quarantine, I believe, when they arrive. So, the sooner the better, but, there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of hoops that those guys have had to go through to try to make this happen. So, I'm confident that we'll get our 2 guys here. They may have to take some classes virtually for the first few days while they finish their quarantine, but our institutions worked hard, and certainly my coaching staff and our compliance staff has worked really hard to check all the boxes to make sure that we can get them here as quickly as we possibly can. But to answer your question, there's been some challenges different than other years, certainly. But I'm hopeful that, that, as I said earlier, I hope institutions will provide the flexibility to understand the difficult circumstances with which these young people that are coming from abroad have had to deal with during the pandemic this summer.
And next we'll go to Anna Bellinghausen.
Hi, Coach. You noted that experience is key for college basketball. What does a team look like experience-wise based on, what happened last season and what you got going here with the transfer with Alex and Damian and Denzel coming back?
Well, Alex will sit out. That was part of the agreement when we recruited him, regardless of whether he was, able to get a waiver of any sort. He really feels a year off working with our strength and conditioning coach and training in our system would be beneficial to him, and I agree. But, as you look across our lineup, Marcus, Denzel, Mitch, DJ, Christian, Sharif, Jacobs played some college basketball. So, those are a lot of guys. Antoine played some at Memphis as a freshman. So, college basketball is obviously there's some talented freshmen one and dones that come into the college basketball every year, but experience matters in college basketball, and obviously we have a lot of that back, especially at the guard position with Marcus, Mitch, Denzel, and DJ. Those 4 have played on a lot of important games for us and have executed really well in those games. So that's why I wasn't quite as concerned. I know some coaches made the decision to bring their team back earlier this summer. In talking to our team, we just decided they were in a good place where they were. They understand what they have to do and how hard they need to work to prepare themselves. And I think because we have such a veteran group, we'll be able to make up for anything we may have missed this summer.
All right, we'll go back to the top with John Miatawa. Certainly, if you don't have a question, just say skip, and we'll move on to the next person. But John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple quick ones. Are you planning to get – is August 17th the first day you can get the whole team together, aside from the foreign guys?
And, we still aren't allowed back on campus. So until there's some decisions made, from the campus leadership as to when we can return to our offices, I don't really have an answer to that question. I know the guys will start coming back, the freshmen probably the 13th and 14th. I think the rest of the guys will be here by that weekend, the 15th or 16th, with the plan to start classes the 17th. And as soon as we have access back to campus, we look forward to getting together as a group. It's been whatever that day was, March 12th, or whatever it was the last time that we've been together face to face. So that's the longest, obviously, in any time in my coaching career that we've been away from our.
And then your schedule. I mean, I know that we don't know what the non-conference is going to look like, if there will be a non-conference, but is it set as much as it can be if indeed everything starts on November 10th?
Yeah, I think so. And, I don't think we've received word on who we would play in the Gavitt games yet. I think that's the missing piece. And my guess is the two conferences are waiting for a little bit more direction before they make those announcements in terms of, will we start on time and where do those games fit into the big picture. But, I think we've been in contact with the teams that we have contracted to play at home and buy games. And obviously there's some language we needed to add to some contracts in case, we can't play in front of fans or we have to play in front of a limited number of fans. But like I said, nobody knows the answer to those questions. And it seems like the information changes almost daily.
Thank you.
Andy Kendi?
Coach, we've seen at the professional levels some having some issues trying to wrap their arms around being safe and doing the right thing, and some at the college level as well. How do you stress to your guys to do their part so we can move forward and have a basketball season?
Well, I mean, I think that's the education part of it. The NBA and the NHL have done a terrific job, and obviously they're living in a controlled environment, and they're very strict in terms of what the rules are in those bubbles. That's impossible to do in college athletics, especially when you have, in our case, 4,000 or 5,000 students on campus. So, I think the opportunity to keep our guys safe in our practice facility, in our weight room, in the classrooms on campus, I think, our campus leadership will do everything they possibly can to ensure that will happen. The challenges will be is what do they do on Sunday afternoons and Friday nights and Saturday nights, and that's where people are going to have to be really smart if we expect to have a season that we'd all like to have. So, that'll be a big part of big talking point when we're able to get together as a group. Young people, I think, by nature feel like they're invincible. And, there's been enough cases around the country and enough examples to show them that, if we want to get shut down for 2 weeks, here's how it happens. People make bad decisions and all of a sudden your program shut down for a couple of weeks and everybody's in quarantine. So that'll be something that we'll certainly talk about with our guys. And, I think our guys will be hungry enough to play that they'll make the necessary sacrifices.
Hey, one quick follow-up. How's Doug like the bubble?
I think it's been good. I think it's back to playing games. I think is probably good for all of them. Being down there for 2 or 3 weeks, without much to do and just, practices during the day, I think got a little boring sometimes, but, like he said, Dad, this is, people come here to go on vacation where I'm staying. So it's not like we're isolated in the worst place in the world. So, it's worked extremely well, probably exceeded what I thought my expectations were for it. And I think the quality of basketball has been really good to this point as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, just curious, with Mitch coming back and being such a proven commodity for you these last few years, what do you really tell him that he needs to work on in his offseason? Where do you think he can still improve his game between now and when your season could start?
Well, I think defensively is Mitch has made good strides, but I think he needs to make another step. And, I watched, Toronto and the Lakers the other night, this past weekend. And, Matt Thomas that played at Iowa State was someone that I recruited when he was young and watched him develop during the course of his college career on both ends of the floor. And he's been able to learn how to survive defensively so that you can afford put him on the floor as an elite shooter. And I think Mitch Ballack is as good a shooter as there is in college basketball. And besides that, he's an unbelievable teammate, and he's a team first guy with every fiber in his body. So I think he's got a chance to play basketball for a long time, and he understands he has to get a little bit better defensively, and he's going to continue to work on that. And then, last year he did a much better job of finishing once he got in the paint when people ran him off the three-point line. And, those are areas that he's continued to work on this summer as well.
John Bishop?
Mac, we talked to Rass a couple of weeks ago, and obviously the ADs are conversing about how a schedule might look this year. Kevin Willard has said, suggested ideas about maybe starting Thanksgiving, playing the conference season only. Have you, as the coaches, actually met via Zoom or just talked about, different scenarios of what you may or may not be doing?
Not really, John, because at the end of the day, what we say doesn't matter anyway. So, why spin our wheels? And I think we've all communicated, with our administration ideas that we possibly have. And, certainly, most colleges have gone to a model where they're going to finish at Thanksgiving and not start again to mid-January. So there is a 7-week window in there where you certainly could consider a bubble of some sorts. Because the reality of it is we have to pay to house the guys when they're here. We have to provide their meals during that 7-week period. So whether we do it in Omaha or somewhere else doesn't really make any difference. So, I think that's at least I'm hopeful that that's a worst case scenario, that we could think about something like that. But there's been a lot of ideas thrown at the wall, and people a lot smarter than us coaches are making these decisions. So I'm hopeful that, at the end of the day, that the virus subsides enough that we can have a season.
Rex?
Mac, I think the non-conference really helped you guys last year get rolling, and then you just carried it right into the Big East season. If there isn't a non-conference this year, how does that change your approach of getting this team ready when the games mean that much more right out the gate?
Well, we started 2-3 in the league play last year, so really every game we played from that point forward was pretty doggone important. I think the guys understood the magnitude of those games, especially those, when I think we went to Seton Hall and we were down 3 games in the conference race, and really knew that if we can't figure out a way to win this, then we're probably out of it. And by winning that game, we got back within shouting distance of first place, and then we're able to finish it with a great run at the end. So again, I think that's where experience is key. I wouldn't want to roll into conference play without any non-conference games if I was counting on 4 freshmen or a couple freshmen and a couple transfers that haven't played. But having some experience back, I think there's a level of trust that's developed, and we certainly have that in our guys.
Thank you.
John Akers?
Yeah, Coach, and I apologize to the others for going a little off topic here, but I'm also working on a story on Steve Forbes. And in the research, I began to notice all the Iowa coaches, or so many Iowans from that era who have gone on to become successful coaches, yourself included, Nick Nurse, Ed Conroy, Chris Jansen, others. Is there a common, I guess the one common thread I saw is very few of you, or maybe none of you, really had straight lines in your careers, in your paths. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe whether you've crossed paths much with Steve and know much about his journey?
Even though he looks considerably older than I do, we graduated in the same year and actually played in an all-star game together at the conclusion of our senior year in high school. So I've known Steve since high school. He's done a terrific job wherever he's been. Had a very terrific career as a junior college coach, and then went on as an assistant and paid his dues. And you're right. None of us, as you think back, none of us really were in a situation where we were an assistant coach at a blue blood, and that allowed us to get into becoming a head coach. We all took different paths and kind of worked our way up through the ranks to get to the position that we are today. But Steve's done things the right way, and he works extremely hard, and he's I've coached against his teams when he was at East Tennessee State, and does a terrific job. And I tried to hire Coach Jans a few years ago, right before he took the job at New Mexico State. And Nick Nurse and I were college teammates, and go back to our high school days as well. So I'm happy for Steve and the job that he's done, and I think Wake Forest hit a home run with that hire.
Thanks.
Anna?
Yeah, Coach. Looking at the non-conference schedule as it is now, was there any excitement when you were confirmed that you guys are playing Kansas, or any talk with the guys about their excitement for that game?
Especially you think about Christian and Mitch and Jet, Nick Zile, guys from the Kansas City area. Obviously, very excited for them to go back to Lawrence to be able to play. But there will be a top 10 team, and we're going to be in that same conversation. So to go play a game like that on the road, I'm hopeful it happens, because it's one of those games that really prepares you for what's going to lie ahead in conference play. I mean, if you can go do well in Allen Fieldhouse, then there aren't many places in the country you can't go play and survive their crowd. So, Coach Self does a terrific job. They'll have a great team again. And I think I speak for all of our fans. It's a game that we really hope happens because it'd be a terrific lead into a very good conference season in the Big East once again.
I think everybody's gone through twice now. Anybody else with additional questions, just feel free to yell them out. All right. Well, Coach, thank you again for joining us. And
stay safe, everyone. Look forward to seeing everybody in person, hopefully sooner than later.
All right.
David
Thanks,
Mack.
Coach.
Thank you.